I'm John. Welcome to the Wood Ninja. This is the second edition of the Yellow Jacket B table. I want to go over a couple of things that worked, some things that didn't work, and things that I probably do differently with the table. But first, if you like woodworking or you like this channel, it's a must to subscribe. You gotta ask for it. All right, now some of the things that I originally started out with, using honeybees. Well, when I put them through the process of dipping them into the epoxy and that, they look like raisins. So I actually took those off and they look terrible. So, and then I decided, well, what could I do? I came up with yellow jackets. Now the exoskeleton of a yellow jacket is much harder and it seems to really endure the epoxy process, the epoxy annealing process, and it shows up better, that yellow and black. So there's that. So I had to do a little pivot on that to go to the yellow jackets. So that worked out well. I wasn't originally going to do an epoxy pour over the top. I was originally going to do Rubio's Monaco, and then I was going to buff the center out, like pretty much like normal. But I decided to go with an epoxy pour over the top to give it depth. And when I did the inlay, another thing I was not expecting to do, it came to me when I was talking to my friend Nick, and Nick's like, hey, we can do an inlay for that. So one thing led to another, and we did an inlay, and that helps also give it depth. If I was to, so those are the things that I've changed, and then there's something I would do differently. Now I have lights down the river table. Now I would have done backlighting on either side of the river table if I were to do it all over again. I'm not a huge fan of the lights down the middle, but you know what? I really love how the project turned out. I really am happy with it. Just, I would have done something a little differently. I love the black legs from Flowy Line. I love those. I'm also going to put in a link below where the eBay seller where I bought all the yellow jackets. I told them I would put that in there. So it's going to be in the description below on where I bought all my yellow jackets. About 300 of them, roughly, give or take. And so without further ado, we're gonna see the crowning glory of what all these hours and days of work are all about. Thank you for watching. All right. Okay, so I took this piece of black walnut. I laid it down here like that, traced it out. Once I traced it out, I routed it. As you can see, I routed it the same thickness as this, same. Then, once I did that, I'm gonna do a little close up here. You can see I routed a little deeper channel in here. Now that is to hide my wiring. Get a little closer here. You can see those are my penetrations of where I installed my lights. That's how that is. Those are, so I drilled right through from the top to the bottom. And those are the different penetrations. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some of this, taking some painter's caulk here, caulking all the holes, all the penetrations, so that when I pour the top again, when I fill it up with epoxy, it'll be complete, it won't leak out on me. And I have a feeling it's going to leak out on me. Here's the power supply here. Here's my transceiver here. So there's not enough space for everything to fit. So I'm caulking it here, as you can see the caulk in here, to hold my wiring in. Once that's set up, then I'm gonna cut more areas to set all my wiring down. Then I can make sure my plate fits over the top nice and clean. And when that's done, then it's time to pour the top. Okay, so as you know, the electronics are done, the lights are in. I caulked the whole back side of where the wiring is, where the penetrations are through, where the lights pop through, and then we run our lights and connect them up. That's all completely connected and caulked in. Everything works. All our lights work, so it works like that. See the lights? It's cool. Okay, so the lights work. That works. I put up a dam here, a caulk dam. I'm gonna let that dry overnight. We level this out a little better in the morning. And we are going to pour the last, hopefully, the last epoxy pour for the B table. So I got pretty much all my stuff out here, getting ready to go. I do want to give you kind of like a close-up of kind of how it looks. So you can see there's some bees in there. It's kind of not coming out that well on the video as it looks like in real life. It's a lot better, I would say. But there are some pretty cool bees in there. There's some bees in there. They're chilling. They're everywhere. Bees everywhere. Okay, so we'll get that poured up and then we'll start polishing that out and going for the finish. All right, we're going to do that in the morning, probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, laters. Okay, I'm getting ready to pour my probably the second or so pour on this river. I already poured the black epoxy on the bottom, and I've already epoxied the comb, the honey. It's not actual honeycomb, it's actually wasp comb, but I've already epoxied that in. So now I'm doing some total boat slow pour, deep pour, I guess, epoxy, and you can see all the bubbles popping up in there. You can see, even though I've epoxied the bottom with black epoxy, total boat, and epoxied each comb and soaked them, there's still going to be bubbles. It just doesn't seem to matter how many times I epoxy it. There's always going to be bubbles. So I put the caulk barriers on either side so I can over pour it, so I can try to get as much of the bubbles out of my pour, my project, as possible. And here I am pouring some more, and it just bubbles just keep on coming. Lights work, and you see, I see they flashed on there. So I just keep mixing up more and more epoxy. I keep pouring it in there, and the bubbles just keep on coming. I use a torch generally. I have a heat gun too, so either heat gun or torch seems to work fine for getting the bubbles out. Kind of like a torch better. Seems like it does a little better job. Less wind, I guess. But even though I've epoxied, you can see it really likes to soak it in. Anyways, just pour it up. I over pour it, and then we'll deal with the bubbles at a later date. You know, we'll hit them with a torch, and if they're in the top, eighth of the pour, yeah, it's not really a big deal because we'll just sand them off. That's it. Okay, we got it poured. I hit it with some hit with a heat gun. You can see a lot of bubbles in there. There's a lot of imperfections. Most of it's to the top though. So, and with that dam, with this caulk dam, I made this higher, so all my imperfections are going to be out of the project at the end of the day. Man, those guys look good in there. They look good. Cool beans. All right, let's see something here. Let's see if we do this. Oh yeah, buddy. Look at that. Pretty cool. Okay, it's about, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning, the day after I poured, and everything looks good. I just had a real small leak. It was actually so small it actually did not matter. But everything looks like it came out all right. I have a couple other ideas to do, well, at least one idea. I'm gonna run it by and see what you guys think. But looks like we're gonna let this cure out for a little bit. We'll take off the caulk dam. We'll start sanding it down, polishing up. But I have an idea what I think I might want to do. Let me show you what I'm thinking about. Okay, here we go. All right, so I was thinking, we have this big open area over here. I printed out what a yellow jacket would be. Thinking maybe I'll put it here. This is just a representation, and the size representation, which I kind of want something pretty big, obviously a lot larger than real life. And then I would cut this out, get a little stencil, and then router out the body, pour that in epoxy. I think that's what I want to do. I don't really know that that's what I'm going to do. I'm still pondering if that's what I want to do, but you can see the pour here, so look at that. Everything's pretty good. Let's get some, let's get a close up on that maybe. See how hard that is? That's just one day. A little dam, I gotta get that dam out of there, and then you'll see that this is, see there's a bubble there, but that's too high. It's gonna get just taken right out in the, when we finish this off. You see there's epoxy here, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to come, see, I wanted to come right over the shoulder on this with the epoxy. So I know I could take it down, and then we're good to go. That bubble will be gone. So that's what it's like at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning, whatever time it is. Anyways, came out pretty good. I kind of like that. Now let's see if the lights still work. Let's back this thing up. Let's go like this. I'll back up here. Let's see if those lights still work. Oh yeah, they sure do. Good deal, nothing ruined. All right, cool. All right. Here we are over at my friend Nick's place, and we set up his laser machine. Now, what you see here is about an hour and a half of already set up, because we have to have this in the computer. The computer tells us where to burn it. So what you're seeing now is just, you know, the aftermath of us trying to set this up on his computer for an hour and a half or so, whatever it was. So once we figured out that, we were able to put it in his machine. Now we have it actually in, you know, long wise instead of the way it's supposed to, because the table is actually too long to fit the correct way in there. So we have it in there like at an angle. So we have to keep raising and lowering the head on that so that it burns correctly. So I wasn't sure there for a minute there if we were actually going to get it correct. But what we did is we had to keep raising and lowering that laser head so it would burn deep enough. I told Nick, you know, hey, listen, I mean, I'll cut this table like, you know, 2 or 3 inches on each side and we'll slide it in there. But we came up with this idea of not cutting it and putting it in this way and orientating the bee accordingly so it would fit where we wanted it to fit on the actual table. So, and the burning process of actually, you know, burning out the negative in the table took over an hour, probably about an hour, 7 and 10 minutes. And that was that was just to burn this thing out so we could put the other pieces in to glue it together. And I thought about, when it was all burned out, I thought about just putting epoxy over this the way it looks, you know, just having one solid black bee. I'll tell you what, I really dig it the way it looks, just black. And I really had to get talked into putting the pieces in that we came up with, which turned out great. But it was definitely crossed my mind just to epoxy it the way it was, black. So, you know, maybe you guys leave a comment in there if you would have thought maybe black would have been, solid black would be the way to go. I don't know, but at the end of the day, we burned it out. Then we added the pieces in there. We glued all the pieces in there. We put it in like a 50-ton press. So we did that for overnight. So it was pressed overnight in a 50-ton press. The next day we took it out, and then we were able to start working on it. After that, I just sanded it down, and then from there we kept finishing it to the epoxy that you see today. But this was not an easy task to get it orientated properly, keep lowering and raising the laser head. It was not easy at all. Here I am cleaning it out. There it is. Hopefully that be enough for gluing. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with it.
So there's gonna be like glue squirting out.
That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
I need a little.
I feel weird wearing gloves. I just want you to know. I feel like I'm doing something wrong, like I'm cheating or something. Just so you know. Here we are. Nick and I are gluing this guy in. I'm still over at his place, and so I decided to glue it over at his house. And then he's got a 50-ton press, so that's kind of what we're doing. We're using Titebond 3, even though it says Titebond 2. He's using the bottle, and putting it in there. I personally would have wiped all the glue out, but I guess we're not doing that, because once you put it in that press, it really just sinks it right down. And yeah, I mean, I was nervous when it was in there like here, because it's pretty proud. The B set's pretty proud, so I was hoping that everything would set down. I kind of figured once we had it in the press, it would push it down, and it did. But you know, you're always nervous until it's done. And I thought the sanding would take a lot longer. We used some aggressive 40 grit to sand that sucker down, but you'll see that in a minute. Here we are. Now this is the day after. Now we pulled it out of the press, and here we are hitting it with some 40 grit. And it's very aggressive. We really took it down real quick. And what I'm worried about here is just taking down and not making it even. But so I keep touching it. I hit it with. See, I got a little like air gun there, and it's cordless, and it's pretty nice actually. And I just keep blowing all that dust out of there so you can see what we're doing. 'Cause I just don't want to carve a big hole someplace in it. Anyways, we take it down here with some 40 grit, and once we get it down close, then we change out to like 120 grit, 180, 200, and that's about it. We stop about there, and then I take it back to my house, and I take it down all the way with 400 grit or 600 grit, I think is what I ultimately took it down to. And over the epoxy part, I went down to 2,000 grit, I believe, or maybe 3,000. Definitely at least 2,000 grit on the epoxy. And that it seemed to turn out pretty well. But if you're just grinding inside, we were grinding outside. You really want to have some type of ventilation, because that was pretty rough, I'll tell you. But outside with the blower worked out great. What do you guys think? I think it came out pretty good, even at that stage. Okay, smooth as silk. Look at that. She's all in there, buddy.
Dude, I just make this.
As you can see, I've already sanded it down. You can see that the epoxy is pretty milky. So I like to sand everything down so it adhere pretty well. Then I'm going to do just a wipe on epoxy to seal up the wood and seal everything down. So this is just a very light coat that I put on by hand. Just let it soak in. So when I do the flood coats, I don't want a lot of bubbles. In fact, I don't want any bubbles to come through. So the first thing I do is I just wipe it on, get it soaked into the wood, and hopefully take up all the bubbles I can take up. Because that, when you're doing epoxy pour, that's the last thing you want, is to have some bubbles in there. You're going to have to deal with that, which is not easy. Okay, so then I just go ahead and keep wiping it down, trying to keep it, epoxy on there. So I want it to soak in, and that's what's happening right now, is the wood's just sucking it in. You can see some dry spots on there, and that's why I just keep hitting it with a sponge. The sponge helps because it's clean and it's very even, and it coats it very. I'm just going to chuck the sponge out at the end, but it does a very clean job. You don't leave a lot of fibers behind. Like if you use paper towels or anything like that, maybe leave some fibers behind. But this first coat, it's money, I'll tell you. Worked out real well. Real happy. Good thing I always listen to you, Nick. Always. Never argue with you. I did a little epoxy over the top of this. It's hard to tell, but I epoxied that, sanded it down to 220 grit, filled in all the little spaces in our guy here, and he's looking pretty fly. Got the trying to get that shine out of there, but you can see she looks pretty good. Got all the little imperfections out of my guy. Sanded all this down. It's hard to see because it's got glare. That's about it right there, buddy. I just did a wipe on epoxy. I'm not going to do a flood coat yet. Okay, I thought the camera was on, but here is a shot of the first coat of epoxy. Do an epoxy coat over the top here. Looking pretty good. Liking it. Wow, does that really bring that guy out, huh? Boy, she's pretty. Look at that. Nice and pretty. It's not all perfect yet, but we're working on it. Now, I did a little epoxy pour on the top here yesterday. And, well, we got a nice little surprise here. So got a little spill on the side over here, and on the back, and on the side here, which is normal. But here, of course, table wasn't quite level, so I have to re-pour this section here again, so it means the whole table gets poured again. Wonderful. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so I ripped out the old sawhorses, put down plastic, put new sawhorses in. Then I also sanded the bottom of the table where all the drips were, okay? And I leveled this out. So as you can see, she's level as level can get this way. She's level this way. And then level crosswise. All right, now we're going to pour once again. Oh boy. And here I am on the second or third pour of the epoxy. I'm not sure if my camera picked up all the pours or not. So some of these pours are like at 4 o'clock in the morning. So you'll just have to bear with me here. I can tell that this is either the second or third pour. So again, I use Totable on this, mix it up in my little container. I always like to use a drill. This seems like it gets a good mix to it. And so that you see me mixing it. Okay, and then I got my little, I guess my little 6-inch knife there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use that. And see, I got a paper towel here, and not really the best thing to use, but I use it on the sides a little bit, my hands on the side. And then I'm just gonna dump it on there and kind of squeegee it around. I just wanna make sure it gets everywhere, especially on the sides, because the sides on this table, the end grains are a little punky. So, you know, kind of like a cork. And they really ate up a lot of the epoxy. So there I am pouring it out. And you can see this time I actually got the plastic underneath, unlike the time before that, where I made a nice mess on the floor because somebody forgot to put plastic down, because that's what you do. Anyways, trying to get past that now. So I'm hitting it with the torch. This is very important to get as many bubbles out of it. You got to get them all out of there. If you don't get them out, you're gonna want to sand them out. You're gonna want to sand it right back down to get all those things. So you got to be relentless with that torch and look at it at all angles. Try to get everything you can. It really is gonna work out a lot better if you do that. So, yeah, that's why you see me just hitting it with that torch. Just don't hit it in the same spot too long, because you'll burn it, and then you'll wind up sanding that out, and wipe up the bottoms on it. That will help out a lot. A little update here. Trying to get towards the end here. I thought it was towards the end. Sanding off all the little nodes on the bottom, all the epoxy on the bottom, sanding it all off. My electronics now they're not working for some reason, so I got to work on that. Install some of my inserts for my screws. Now I'm going to do another light sand over this. Somehow I'm going to try to get my electronics to work, somehow. And I need to finish the bottom. I'm not going to do epoxy on the bottom, I'm going to probably do a lacquer on the bottom. And just really super frustrated today. Thought I was going to be done. Thought everything was going to work out. I just can't get my electronics to work. I think I did something to the transceiver. Alright, stay tuned. Yeah, so as you can tell, I was pretty frustrated in that last clip because my electronics worked fine. The lights worked fine. Everything was fine. And then one time, it decided it didn't want to work anymore. And I just couldn't figure it out. So this runs on a battery pack, which is, that's my power supply. And what's going on is it works off of RF, which is radio frequency. It's not infrared, which is line of sight. The problem what I had is that for some reason, I had it all taped in there so it wouldn't pop out. The batteries were leaking. That was the issue. So I replaced the batteries and magically everything works fine. Day saved. Okay, we're almost got this thing wrapped up, pretty much done. Like to kind of go over a couple of things real quick. If you like woodworking or any type of construction, it's mandatory. I think it's a felony if you don't subscribe. Okay. I really like this light in here. Kind of helps me. Highlights everything. The inlay, the bees or wasps, the yellow jackets. Also, I can use this as a drawing table. That would work out really good as a drawing table. I'm going to do some close-ups for you. We used black metal legs from Flowy Line. I don't get paid for that, but I'm just letting you know I really like their legs. All right, so I'll do some close-ups for you. Here we got some close-ups so you can see what I can see. Bees galore. Okay, nice and clear. You see those guys? One of my favorite things is the inlay, she's in there good. A lot of people are like, oh, did you paint that? Oh no, that black is Wenge, and then we have yellow heart, and then we have lace oak over here for the wings. She really came out nice. Really like it. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything. And see you on the next one. You guys take care now. So here are some close-ups, some still photos. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who got this far in the video and is watching it. And we're making a push for 500 subscribers. And if you like this content, you like crazy stuff, then I urge you, I implore you to subscribe. It helps us out. It helps us make more crazy stuff for you guys. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Here we go. She's all done. Our legs on there. Look at that. It's pretty sweet. And do a little all the way aroundy. Oh yeah. All the way around. Look at that. Very sweet. Very nice. Look at that. We have some cool bloopers and outtakes for you. Ninja! Ninja! Waya!